Hey everybody, glad you're here. This is the Chase Squirrelson Show, and I'm your host, Chase Squirrelson. And if you're listening right now, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Today's episode is one of those conversations that starts simple and then goes somewhere interesting. So let's jump in. One of the things that is very important, I think, for my friends to know is that we do not have a disorder. We are just wired differently. We actually have strengths that other people, neurotypical people, generally don't have. So what I'm going to call this episode is the disorder that accidentally built the world and occasionally set kitchens on fire. I think this is the only podcast where we take the most misunderstood brain wiring on Earth and try to figure out whether it's a bug or a secret feature that got released before the instruction manual. So let me say something right off the bat. If ADHD were a stock, would you buy it? Yes, I would. It would be volatile, unpredictable, occasionally catastrophic, but in the long term, absolutely explosive and productive and profitable. Let's start with the label ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Right away, it sounds like something went wrong. Like somewhere in the factory, a guy dropped a screw into your brain and said, "Hey, go ahead, ship it anyway." But here's the problem. That label is based on how ADHD people behave in environments they were never designed to function in. We're supposed to sit still, focus on one thing. Don't talk, don't move, don't interrupt, don't fidget, don't get distracted. Basically, don't be human and don't be interesting. Because if you go back 10,000 years, nobody said, "Hey, could you please sit quietly in this cave for 6 hours and review these berries?" No, they needed the guy who noticed everything, the one who chased the rustle in the bushes, the one who said, "What? We tried something different?" That person wasn't disordered. He was necessary. The next segment would be the superpower of interest-based focus. Now let's talk about one of the most misunderstood traits of ADHD. They can't focus. That's what they say about us. Oh, really? Because give someone with ADHD something they're interested in, and suddenly they turn into a Navy SEAL of concentration. We're talking 6 hours go by like 10 minutes. No hunger, no thirst, no awareness of time, possibly no awareness of loved ones. That's not a lack of attention. That's selective, weaponized attention. The real issue isn't they can't focus. It's they can't force themselves to focus on things that feel meaningless to them, which, if we're being honest, is kind of rational. Next comes the hyperfocus, the double-edged sword. And let's give it a name. I call it hyperfocus. And if you don't have ADHD, this might sound like a superpower, because it is. But it's also like owning a Ferrari with no steering wheel. You can go fast, but you don't always know where you're going. And people with ADHD don't decide. Today, I will hyperfocus on my taxes. No, it's more like I open my laptop to pay bills, and now I know everything about the migration patterns of Icelandic puffins. 3 hours later, bills, well, they're still unpaid. Knowledge of puffins, elite. But here's the thing. When hyperfocus aligns with purpose, that's when ADHD becomes dangerous, and in a very good way. That's when businesses are built. That's when art gets created. That's when innovation happens. Next comes connection thinking, which I really believe is one of our really most secret advantages. One of the biggest strengths of ADHD is something I call connection thinking. Most people think in straight lines. ADHD minds, we think like a spider web. Everything connects to everything else. A conversation about coffee turns into global trade, climate patterns, a startup idea, a childhood memory, and somehow a business plan emerges. This is why people with ADHD often see patterns others miss. We come up with creative solutions and we think outside the box. They don't think outside the box. They forget there was a box to begin with. Next comes what I call high energy equals high output. That is, when it's directed. Another thing ADHD gets labeled for is hyperactivity, which sounds like a problem. Until you realize energy is only a problem if it has nowhere to go. Put that energy into sports, business, creative work, and performance, And suddenly that problem becomes fuel. You've probably seen it. The person who can't sit still in a meeting but can outwork everyone when it matters. That's ADHD. It's not low capacity. It's high capacity without a built-in filter. Next comes humor, charisma, and quick thinking. And let's talk about something that doesn't get enough credit, ADHD and charisma. People with ADHD tend to be quick-witted, funny, engaging, and very energetic in conversation. Why? Because their brains are constantly making connections. That means faster responses, unexpected humor, creative storytelling, and let's be honest, some of the funniest people you know probably have at least a touch of ADHD because their brain doesn't just follow a script, it rewrites it mid-sentence. Then, of course, there's risk-taking and courage. Now, here's one that's interesting. ADHD is often associated with impulsivity, which, yes, can be a problem, but it's also tied to something else, courage. People with ADHD are more likely to try new things, take risks, jump into opportunities before looking, and start before they're really ready. And while that can lead to mistakes, it also leads to movement, and movement beats overthinking every time. Also, for us, resilience is built from chaos. Here's something people don't talk about enough. If you grow up with ADHD, you deal with it, being misunderstood, being corrected constantly, and being told to just focus, feeling like you're not meeting expectations, and that does one of two things. It can either break you or it builds resilience. A lot of people with ADHD develop thick skin, adaptability, and creative coping strategies because they've had to. They've been solving problems their whole life, even if no one noticed. Then comes a very important factor, and that is when ADHD is aligned. Now, here's the key idea of the entire episode. ADHD is not about fixing the person. It's about aligning the environment. Because when you take someone with ADHD and put them in the right role, the right structure, and the right mission, something incredible happens. They don't just perform, they excel. They become entrepreneurs, creators, leaders, and innovators. And that is because they're no longer fighting their brain, they're using it. Another ADHD law is around comedy. Let's introduce a few scientific laws, completely made up but emotionally accurate. Law number 1, the law of urgency creation. Nothing gets done until it becomes an emergency. Law 2, the 3-hour deep dive law. Any simple task will lead to a completely unrelated research rabbit hole, and that happens to me all the time. Law 3 is the where did I put that principle. Objects do not disappear. They simply enter a different dimension. Law 4, the motivation paradox. The harder I try to force focus, the less it shows up. Now, I maybe sound like an expert, or I'm trying to sound like an expert, but I really have one that we can talk to. I'm talking about Bronwyn Foley. She is a specialist in ADHD coaching. She is actually my coach, and she is a font of wisdom and knowledge, and I really look forward to hearing what she has to say about this. Well, to add some real intelligence to this and some expertise, I have my good friend and coach, ADHD coach, I should say, Bronwyn Foley. Bronwyn, welcome back to the show. You're a regular, and today we're talking about the strengths of ADHD. A lot of people kind of designate it as a disability or there's something wrong with us, but I've learned quite a bit about it, and there are some strengths and advantages that we have. Bronwyn, and I know that you have some strong opinions about that.
Yes, I do have some strong opinions about that. Thanks for having me back, Chase. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to be here to talk about strengths and highlight all the things that are right about ADHD people.
Well, welcome back, and let's start with the obvious question is, what are the strengths typically associated with people with ADHD?
ADHDers tend to be terrifically imaginative, creative, sensitive, honest, generous, clever, and often very funny and fun to be with. We're known for being terrific problem solvers, and we're capable of jumping right into the center of a challenge and finding our way to a solution, often in in a manner unfathomable to a neurotypical. And sometimes we can't even quite explain it ourselves. We can be great company and deeply empathic. We can concentrate deeply, even hyperfocus on areas of interest or a topic we find important. And interestingly, when an ADHDer is really absorbed in something of importance or interest, much touted executive function deficits very frequently fall away. For so much of ADHD, it's all about context. Please remember also, I'm just going to offer this. The term ADHD describes observed difficulties attending to the present in a way deemed appropriate by a set of standards. ADHDers exist in many iterations. We have the intensely energetic expression all the way to the dreamier, more internal expression. As a result, every ADHDer has strengths, and every ADHDer doesn't have the same strengths as another. Variation truly is the norm with human beings, and this includes ADHD people.
Very interesting. And I guess the next question to dovetail from that would be, can my biggest struggles sometimes be considered a strength?
Absolutely. As Dr. Edward Hollowell says, what is distractibility but creativity gone right? Even the science of strengths accounts for the over or underuse of strengths. Pick any struggle and you can likely turn it over to find a strength, or imagine a context where that struggle is the strength that is exactly what's needed.
You know, sometimes I think, and I heard people who have ADHD think of, well, neurotypicals have an advantage over us, you know, like a left-handed person trying to live in a right-handed environment. But when might my ADHD give me an edge over neurotypicals?
ADHDers tend to be terrific crisis actors, and they can often perform extremely well under pressure. This doesn't mean they don't feel pressure or get nervous. This means pressure can be galvanizing for their attention. For those of us who are more internal, these individuals may be very empathic and excellent at reading the emotional or social tone of a room.
It's typical for me to be in a conversation with somebody and then they'll say, where did you come up with that idea? I mean, that's not even what we're talking about. But can that ever be a competitive advantage for us?
Well, think about that. Such a great example. We are also very well known for being connective thinkers. So linking things that may not seem obvious at first, but given the way our brains work, that link can become very salient and very resonant in a given moment.
Well, that leads me to a question is, you know, some people would say, well, you know, you can read a couple of books and learn how to become more neurotypical. What I'd like to know is, you know, can we stop or should we stop trying to be typical or do things in a typical way?
I think we should all stop believing we're failing systems versus the systems failing us. A lot of people end up in my Zoom room feeling like they're broken because they couldn't make this particular system work, or this particular method of doing something promised to be the answer. And really it's about the person first. So the whole philosophy of really the foundation of my coaching practice, Start With You, is about understanding your unique system and then creating outputs from there that respect who you are and how you show up as a neurological person. So neurotypical systems work for neurotypicals who created them. Stop fixing yourself and start knowing yourself is one of the central premises of my coaching practice. The more deeply you understand your idiosyncratic self, the nature of how you initiate cognitively, or what you value, or what kind of systems or what elements of systems have supported you in the past, the more keenly you can leverage what you know about how you do things well in the future.
Well, Brian, when you use the phrase or the term how you show up, and I find when I hear that, I'm thinking about how I show up in social situations. I know that if I don't really monitor myself, I can be an interrupter. I can dominate conversations. I can even come up with maybe a question or a statement that's really not appropriate. It's like sometimes I think I am closer to a person than I really am. When you have ADHD, are there social strengths that we have?
Well, I think you kind of talk about some of the possible social strengths. I mean, this podcast perhaps represents a social strength, Chase. Your ability to just get on a podcast and extrapolate on a topic in such a fun and lighthearted way is certainly indicative of what could be a great social strength. You did talk about sometimes interrupting, sometimes coming up with ideas that don't seem salient at the moment. Part of having this unique system is to just develop the awareness and the tools to work with it. I go back to what David Gwerk says, who's the founder of the ADHD Coach Academy, and he really talks about the power of the pause. And then pay attention to what you're paying attention to. So if you're in a conversation, you find your mind wandering, you have the power to bring it back.
Hmm.
You find yourself interrupting, you can start practicing trying not to interrupt.
Especially knowing that that's a tendency that I have. Or like I could be at a dinner and I remember taking Dale Carnegie and it talked about the best way to get along with people is talk about what they're interested in. But then I can just keep interviewing them at dinner and they don't get a chance to talk about what they want to talk about. So my partner sometimes will nudge me in my foot under the table to kind of remind me to let other people be part of the conversation.
That's beautiful, though. You have an ally who supports you, and you have an awareness of something you might do. So that is like a great helper who loves you and supports you. And you have an awareness when you start these kinds of conversations, maybe you start to develop an awareness, okay, when am I going to take a break here and turn the conversation back over to this person?
Mm-hmm.
In the past, I've done this. I'm going to try something different this time.
Well, I think about when I'm trying to improve myself, and I'm noticing that there are certain things that other people are just better at. Like when I first started the idea of doing the podcast, I thought, well, I'll do my own editing. I'll do all the technical stuff. Well, I probably could go to school for 10 years before I could figure out how to do it. I'm not a techie. So the idea for me now is there's many areas that I'm really not that good at, but what's wrong with outsourcing those things to other people?
Yeah, outsourcing is a great strategy for ADHDers. And you hit upon something too. One of the axioms of my coaching practice is none of us get all the strengths. And yet ADHDers, thanks to our tremendously imaginative brains, have the ability to envision that we should have them all. But we don't. None of us get them. We get the strengths we have, and then we have lower resourced areas. Outsourcing is a great thing to consider. Generally, it isn't free, but compare the cost of not outsourcing to the cost of actually doing it, and make a determination on what's going to work for you. Lots of ADHDers have help with cleaning. Eliminating is also an important concept. We tend to be vulnerable in this consumer society. So fighting the tyranny of stuff, digital or physical, can be very empowering. Don't be afraid to question the importance you've accepted regarding a thing or activity. Perhaps you don't need that thing, or you can live with a different routine. You're figuring out what works for you based on your values, not in what seems to activate your attention at a given indiscriminate moment.
This podcast is a perfect example. I've got a great tech team here with the Flint Rock people, and I'm able to just come here and present what I'm thinking about and what I want to talk about, and they take care of the rest. And if I didn't have them, I would have none, probably.
Well, and think about this. By partnering with experts, you're free to shine in your strength.
Yes. One other thing is there might be some listeners today listening for the first time, and I'm one of those people that formally had a very late diagnosis. Everybody has always told me, you've got ADHD or you have ADD, and I just kind of brushed it off. But at a later stage in life, can a person, I mean, I could probably speak to that myself, but somebody might say it's too late for me to really try to deal with ADHD. And that has not been your experience, has it?
No, it has not. And yes, I think you could speak to that brilliantly, by the way.
Thank you.
No, absolutely not. It's not too late to know yourself better, to learn how to go after the things that you dream of, which is the purview of coaching, and to learn to appreciate and love yourself more. Never.
Mm-hmm. The reason I even know you is my partner. We were talking about ADHD one time, and she said, let's go through a checklist. And so we went through the checklist, and I think there's 20 traits, and I had like 18 of them. And she was being nice to me because I probably have 20. And my first thought was when she suggested, why not try to find a coach? In the beginning, it's like, well, she's going to tell me that I have ADHD. And do you sometimes when you are getting new clients or people inquire, why do people maybe avoid getting a coach? I'm wondering what your experience was that. What is it about people that, they don't want to go that route?
That's such a good question. I mean, I'm receiving people who want a coach.
But they've avoided it maybe. They've known for a while.
I will say this, Chase, it's interesting. ADHD coaching, I mean, your partner's, she does her research. We know it, right? A lot of people don't know about ADHD coaching, but ADHD coaching is more and more thought of the first line of, I'm hesitant to use the word defense, but it's like the first step for ADHD, because ADHD coaching is based in what works about a person and how to understand the nervous system so that you have a picture of what's operating between your ears that seems to be so confounding and has been for so long. There's really we move from a deficit mindset to one of potential and purpose. So one thing I will say is that to be coachable, coaching is about the client developing their own solutions in partnership with the coach.
Yes, if I may interrupt, I think like if someone needs a coach for therapy, they're going to kind of get fixed. And when I first talked to you, I thought, well, it's about fixing me. And it's not at all what you really do. It's helping mine the gold in me and helping me use my ADHD traits for an advantage. So I don't feel like you're trying to fix me. I think you're trying to help me navigate and use the gifts I have and not necessarily eliminate my ADHD traits.
Yeah.
And that's what I found surprising about the coaching. It's not fixing me.
No, not at all. Like Hollowell would say, it's time to like unwrap your gifts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing. And I'm looking at like, let's understand your system. Before we pass judgment on it, you've been trying to operate in a world that really is designed for a neurotypical nervous system all your life. You've done really well. I know not everything has gone the way you'd like, but you've done really well. So let's understand your system and support you to broaden that base so you could do even more. Fulfill more of that potential you sense within yourself. Because if there is, I've said this on the podcast before, one of the things that really is a sign of an ADHD impacted person is this sense that there's this unfulfilled potential within.
Well, since I've been working with you, I don't buy self-help books anymore. I'm not doing that. So we're running out of time, but how can people contact you, Bronwyn? You've been so helpful to me. I think you're a great resource. How can people find you?
You can find me at bronwynfoley.com, BRONWYN, F as in Frank, OLEY.com. It's my website. Very easy to reach out and schedule a free coaching Q&A if you're interested in pursuing coaching for yourself.
And one other question, if people want to learn more, is there a book out there that you would recommend people read to better understand the situation? Is there an author? Is there anybody who would say, before they even call you, they know a little bit more about it?
If you would like to explore on your own, ADHD 2.0 is a really good basic primer. I think it's only like, I've got it right here. I can tell you how many pages it is. It's not, hang on. It is About, like, oh my gosh, it's not even 200 pages.
Yeah. I did read it, and I found basically it's an easy read.
Solid, pretty up-to-date information. Also, CHADD, CHADD, Children and Adults with ADHD website has some good resources as well.
Okay, good. Well, you are a regular, so people will be hearing from you again, and I thank you for joining us today and look forward to the next time.
Chase, I love being here with you, and I really appreciate you including me.
Well, you're very welcome, and that is Bronwyn Foley, ADHD coach. Okay, in closing, I'd like to land this. If you have ADHD, you are not broken. Let me repeat that. You are not broken. You are not defective. You are differently wired for a world that doesn't always understand you. It's really not much different than a world designed for right-handers that left-handers have to live in. But that same wiring is responsible for creativity, innovation, energy, boldness, original thinking. The goal isn't to become like everyone else. The goal is to become a more directed version of yourself. If you like this episode, please share it with someone who feels like they just don't fit in or just spent 20 minutes looking for their keys while holding them. So, my friends, stay curious and stay chaotic. And remember, sometimes the squirrel finds the best nuts. If this episode hit home, don't keep it to yourself. Send it to someone who'd get it. You can follow the show so you don't miss the next conversation. And if you feel like it, a quick rating helps the show a great deal. Either way, I appreciate you being here. We'll talk soon.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. The content reflects personal experiences and opinions and is not a substitute for professional medical, psychological, mental health, or legal advice. Flint Rock LLC, the hosts, and guests make no representation or warranties and assume no liability for decisions or actions taken based on this content. Always consult a qualified professional regarding your own situation.